We may live over 5,000 miles from the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl parade, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study. And each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. And I am joined by BGN's own film guru, Jonny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Johnny, how are you doing this evening?
Super Bowl champions. I feel like we're supposed to scream. We're new to the podcast business. I have visions of John Barchard from 10 years ago just coming in and yelling on my mic. And I'm like, oh my God.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. Oh man. Never do I feel more far away from Philly than when I realize there's a parade on Friday and I'm going to be working for the whole day. It's like, oh my God. Not to get too emotional, but it's one of the beauties of social media and with Discord is that you feel a part of this thing, because I literally do live, in a completely separate country, and the fact that I can enjoy, and I feel like a Philadelphian, which is weird. I've only ever been once, but I feel it, and I feel like I'll be watching all the parade stuff. I've just been binging Super Bowl content this week. I can't wait for the mic type stuff. Blah blah blah. Yeah, already some comments in saying making a trip for the parade. I wish. Yeah. I wish. I'll be honest. Friday's my last work day, and if my wife was not 35 weeks pregnant, I can't promise that I wouldn't have booked a last-minute ticket. But I think if I did that, and she goes into labour mid-flight, I may not be coming home to a wife and new baby, because I think they may have left. So not this year, but you never know. They might be back next year, Shane. They might be back next year.
Next year, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. You and I go to the parade and meet up. We'll make it. We can make it happen.
That is the dream. Yeah,
our Patreons can make it happen.
This week has been long, so for the first time, I'm actually drinking a nice beer today with my London Christmas Beer Festival. So if my takes get progressively worse, blame the alcohol content and nothing else. Yeah, man, I almost can't believe it, but I can believe it because we're the best team. And screw the doubters. When you looked at the Eagles and the Chiefs on paper, you were like, this team's just significantly better. And we all got a bit scared about saying it because you do get nervous because it's Mahomes. But basically, every bit of analysis was, we're significantly better. They just have Reed, Spags, and Mahomes. And yeah, man, we'll get into it. But yeah, that was enjoyable. I enjoyed that game immensely. I'd love to say I wasn't stressed. Of course, I was stressed. But yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So let's get into it.
All right, well, let's do it. Before we do, I want to read a couple of reviews from Apple Podcasts for the podcast feed. We had one from Andy from Connecticut that gave us a 5-star rating and said, I'm so glad I found this podcast. I've been watching Shane and Johnny's YouTubes. Very insightful analytics. They are the best. But then my favorite review that maybe we've ever received came from Justin DeFacts. And he said this. He said, Shane is a serious expert on football knowledge without being a condescending schmuck. I love that. Shane is a stone-cold content czar with a perfect balance of geek and emotion. And then, Johnny, is there anyone in the UK that knows ball like you?
There is, by the way. There is.
He went on to say that you are the king of the British NFL, and then said that's kind of like being the world's tallest midget, and then said, seriously, and this is the only part I agreed with or disagreed with, he said, Johnny is equally as awesome as Shane, which, debatable, but great review. And you guys, if you are listening if you're watching live, didn't know there is a podcast feed and there's a lot of other shows besides Johnny and I on it. So go check those out on the Eagles Pin Pull Network. Ratings and reviews, always appreciated. There's going to be a lot of content throughout the off season that we can't wait to do with you guys. So be sure you guys check that out.
Yeah, Patreon's still popping, man. Discord's going off. I think there's nearly 100 in the Discord now. Yeah, especially in the off season, we've got some really cool ideas of what we're going to do around free agency and the draft. A lot of streams, a lot of sort of like a peek behind the curtain, I guess, into how we watch film, breaking down film live. It's gonna be cool. But another peek behind the curtain, we are literally going to record the defensive All-22 review immediately after this show. So I've come home after work, smashed down dinner, and I'm now going to be talking to you for about 3 hours. So let's get straight into it, man. It feels weird to do this like a normal one because we've already watched the offense together and we're about to watch the defense together. So if you want the full game review, basically join the Patreon because you will get every single play, and we may have some little sneaky angles, so you get every single play from all 3 angles as well on the Patreon. This one will be the normal show. So we'll maybe pick just a few things that particularly impressed us on both sides of the ball. We're still going to nitpick some holes in the performance because why the hell wouldn't we? Sort of feel like we have to, especially with the whole Kellen Moore thing. There's a few takes I want to get out there.
He's one of my points today. That'll be
good. I know. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Jonny, offense or defense first? It's the age-old question.
Yes, we actually do defense.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I feel like defense. And we've got some questions, by the way, earlier on at the start. Like, to be fair, we'll try and comment on some. We'll try and what am I trying to say? Jesus. We will try to get to them as we go throughout the pod. But yeah, we've got quite a lot to do. So just pop the questions in if it's relevant to the points we're making. And I've seen some of the questions. I'll try and start them and come back to them.
Yeah, and also we are going to be doing a Patreon mailbag next week. So send in questions for that, and we'll get to anything we don't get to on this show. We'll get to on the Patreon mailbag next week. So let's dive in, Jonny. Why don't you start us off with your first defensive point?
Wow, that completely caught me off guard because you always start. So where should I start this week? So I just start with the overall game plan. So I'm not going to take too many shout outs to myself this week, Shane, because I got rinsed a couple of weeks ago for shout out to myself. But basically,
shout out me.
My favorite comments in the world, because I know I've joked about this on the pod before, is when people say that like they read your stuff, Fangio, and they didn't. But I will just say the Eagles' game plan this week was literally exactly what I wanted Fangio to do. Like if I could have been in the meeting room and I could have said, "This is how I want you to play the Chiefs," it was the exact opposite of what the Buffalo Bills did. And I wonder actually if the Buffalo Bills gave the Eagles an unbelievable chance in this Super Bowl, because Fangio just sat there watching that with his defensive staff and said, everything they're doing would do the exact opposite. Because that's how I felt watching the Bills defense. Every time they went single high man coverage, they got wrecked. Every time they went too high and played zone, it looked like they had a chance. So basically, what did the Eagles do, Shane? Highest percentage of cover 4 this year. They played man coverage on like 1 third down. It was
the first third down of the game, by the way.
Which I love, by the way. And I haven't even got into that this week. I commented on my BGN article. Whether I'm not sure, basically, my 2 theories are, number one, they were meant to run more man coverage, and then the zone worked so well, they just left it. Or they deliberately did it on the first third down to keep Reed calling plays to beat man coverage for the first half. I don't really know. Either theory is great with me. But yeah, let's just talk basic, like how the Eagles won. Like it's the most easy game plan I've ever seen. This was the most Fangio of Fangio performances. It was cover, zone match and rush 4. That was what the Eagles did, just all game, over and over and over and over again. I could show you way too many examples, and I know you're going to talk about some things like the screen defense and Jalyx Hunt. So I'll just give you a few examples of some of the ones that I really liked. So there was, let's go to clip 4 first of all, which we might as well just show we might as well just start things off with the best play of the game, shall we? The pick 6. Like rush 4, zone match, eyes on the quarterback. I mean, this is such an outstanding play by the Gene Shane. My favorite thing about this play, if you haven't picked up on this before, is when you play box base, if you just pause it here. So the Eagles are sort of boxing the free receivers to the top. You can almost see it perfectly there drawn as a box. And the box is a way that you can play a free receiver side without playing tricks. Now, the issue with playing box, and Reed will know this, and we spoke about this a lot, this year, is that the weak side can have quite a lot of success coming over the middle of the field because no one's really looking at him. So Quinyon Mitchell's got to run with him, but Quinyon Mitchell's never going to get there because look at the leverage. Now, just roll back this, and for those of you watching live, watch Cooper DeJean's eyes. He never looks to his right. I'm telling you, he is staring at Mahomes the whole time. It's almost like he feels that there's going to be a crossing route. He passes him off, and then that's so good. And that's film study, but that's just instincts. Like, yes, you can say he's reading Mahomes, but I don't think Mahomes stares that down. I think he's genuinely floating towards the flat DeJean. And the reason why Mahomes throws it is because he thinks DeJean is going to keep going. And I think DeJean just has such an innate feel for spacing. It's so good. I think Mahomes maybe looks at him there, but he just has such a great feel of what is going on around him. Like, he doesn't look. He genuinely doesn't look to his right to see a crossing route at all. He just feels it. He just plays it by feel. And we've got a good comment coming in from Connor saying, hasn't Mahomes been great versus zone? Yeah, he really has, but they just basically there wasn't stuff open. And when there was stuff open, they hate Mahomes, which is bad. And the Eagles got a lot of hands on the line of scrimmage. They got a lot of press coverage on Kelsey, and they couldn't really handle it. I'll give you a few other examples. I could go on for this for ages because basically take that play and just that was the game. Clip 6 on my film thread is probably my favorite. And I put this in the Bleeding Green article. I said Fangio won by playing the purest form of Fangio defense. If you just pause it here, if I was to ask you, Shane, what would Fangio do against this set? You would probably say, as a Fangio guys, they're going to play tricks coverage. What is tricks coverage? Tricks coverage is where this safety is going to watch for any crossing routes from the strong side. That means they're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 3, and they're going to play 1-on-1. Like this to me is literally Fangio in a nutshell. And they just do it perfectly. Quinion Mitchell shuts down Travis Kelce. Oren Burke shuts down the running back. And then the other 5 distribute the routes. And they win with 4. Mahomes just didn't know where to go with the ball. I thought the Chiefs' game plan was pretty rubbish, in all honesty. I thought Mahomes felt pressure. I thought he was seeing ghosts. I think the Eagles had him a little bit scared. It was just like the purest form of Fangio defense, because a lot of people talk about Fangio actually being like a cover 3 guy because he rotates a lot. But to me, that's not what Fangio is. To me, Fangio is still a split safety guy at his heart. And they just won by playing like peak Fangio time and time and time again. I don't know how many of these you're going to show, so I'll run through some of them very quickly. So play 7 as well was the Zach Ball interception. It's just the same. It's just cover 4. It's just pressure from Josh Sweat. They distribute routes to the right. They distribute routes to the left. And Zach Ball has his eyes on Mahomes. Nothing fancy. Mahomes just wasn't seeing the field well at all. Like it was just over and over and over again. It was rush 4, zone match, distribute routes. And I think the important one was they also got bodies around Travis Kelce. So I'll leave you with one final example. And if you want more, look at the film thread I've got out there, read the BGN article because I could go on, or join Patreon and watch the full defensive review. I'll leave you one more, which is play 9. This is my favorite play of the game from a defensive point of view, because what did we say going into the game? We said the plan should be leave your outside quarterbacks one-on-one and crowd the hell out of Travis Kelce. Look at this play. The safeties have no interest in anything deep. 34-year-old Darius Slay on the other side, don't care. One-on-one, don't care. Quinion Mitchell, a rookie, starting in his first ever Super Bowl, don't care. One-on-one all day long. Xavier Worthy running down the field in motion, Shane. Quinion Mitchell, don't care. One-on-one. And all they did, look how many bodies they've got in the middle of the field. Look at Travis Kelce. Like, Travis Kelce maybe gets some criticism for not being the athlete he was. He still wins consistently because Mahomes and him have that relationship. And Mahomes' brain was frazzled. He couldn't figure out where to go with the ball. And I think the Chiefs' lack of a run game really hurt them. I think Andy Reid's refusal to run the ball really hurt them because they just got stuck in this world where the Eagles were like, we're just going to leave 2 deep every single play. And we don't really have to respect the run. So for all the running game nerds out there, this was the exact reason why a running game is so important, because the Chiefs became so one-dimensional. And then the Eagles did the same thing over and over and over again. And the pass rush was phenomenal. They won with a 4-man rush. I think the Chiefs' decision to play Joe Thuney at left tackle might go down in history as one of the worst in a Super Bowl. Like I could go on and on. I really could, and I will do on the Patreon defensive review. I'm going to talk so much about rushing 4 and cover 2 because that was it. My other points will be a lot quicker. For me, that's everything I wanted to get off my chest. It was the purest form of the Fangio defense, and as someone that has studied the Fangio defense for a long time, and the fact he's coached for 38 years and never won a Super Bowl. It was such a sweet, sweet victory. Like, as good as I'd have loved any Super Bowl, but if Mahomes cooked Fangio and they scored like 32 points and the Eagles got like, I don't know, a bit of a fluky touchdown and won 35-32, obviously I'd celebrate the hell out of it. It wouldn't matter. The Eagles win is a win. But it was something cool about this defense who have been so good this year, just completely wrecking the Chiefs offense. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was incredible. And part of me, not really, you understand, but part of me is almost a little sad that the defense worked that well, because I kind of wanted to see, like, because we talked about on our pregame stuff that you should run your defense, but also have some things cooked up if that doesn't work. I'm dying to know, like, what change-ups Vic Fangio had planned if his defense didn't work, and we're never going to know that because obviously it worked incredibly well. But they also did do a few little wrinkles. And so one of the things the Eagles almost never do that they did a couple times in this game in a big way was they dropped 8 into coverage. The Eagles almost never drop 8. But I think this goes along a little bit with, the Eagles were cooking some things up. And so the third play of the game, right? The Chiefs get a first down on their first play. They get 1 yard because a screen gets blown up on second down, and we'll get to screens in a minute. But on the third play of the game, they drop 8. And this is something they almost never do. But the Chiefs go empty, and the Eagles are going to drop Josh Sweat from the edge directly underneath Travis Kelce. And so they're basically double teaming Travis Kelce here. And Josh Sweat is not a dropper. He doesn't do a very good job here, but he should be getting further inside. But look at after the snap, this is where Mahomes wants to go, and Kelce's just bracketed up. Now, it ends up ultimately being open, thrown a little behind, big shot from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But this is something the Eagles almost never do. And then, by the way, they come out on the third down and they play in dime, which they never do. And they play press man coverage, single high, which they don't do very often. And so they were throwing some change-ups really early in the game. But they came back to this drop 8 coverage on a second down in the second quarter on the Kansas City 4-yard line. Except this time, they actually rushed Zach Bond up the middle and they dropped out both edge rushers. And what's brilliant about that is when Zach Bond comes up the middle, it makes the running back stay in to block. And so they essentially force a 6-man protection against 3 blockers or 3 rushers. Now, I mean, the back eventually gets out, but he's delayed because he thinks he's got a responsibility, and Mahomes has to hit him on a check down. And so, without just like showing 30 clips of the defense and being like, look how awesome they mirrored these routes and distributed it because we could do that. That was a wrinkle I picked up. I couldn't tell you the last time the Eagles called drop 8 coverage twice and a half, but they did against the Chiefs in the first half of this game, and they were both wins for the defense.
Shane, shout out to us because we did call it. We did say they might watch the Bills do it, and we did reference it that they might do it. But yeah, I think they did it once against Washington, didn't they? And we said maybe they'll do it a few more times. Yeah. I said this in the Discord earlier on. To the Texans fan we got in the Discord, how awesome is that? We got Texans fans in the Patreon because he loves the All-22 chat we have, which is so awesome because I get to ask him about Texans stuff now. And it now makes me want to create like a network of smart All-22 football fans. But anyway, enough about the future. But what was I going to say? Oh my God, I was going to say on Discord, I was talking about, I totally lost my train of thought on a podcast. Dropping oh my God, Shane, that's the worst. I'm waffling about, not shout out me. That is a horrendous point.
Maybe you were trying to shout me out. I don't know.
What was I talking about with Discord? I'm going to have to fully just leave my point and come back to it. I've got nothing. Jesus Christ, I've totally forgotten. That's never
Johnny is before. Podcasting under pressure about as well as Mahomes played quarterback under pressure right now.
I'm fully gone. I'm gonna have to go and scroll back through my messages.
Well, how about you go do that, and I'll throw to my second defensive point while you do it.
Please do. I'm going to find out exactly what I was going to talk about there, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay. Well, I'll go right into my second point, which let's talk about the Eagles' screen defense. Because we talked about also on previous stuff that the Chiefs threw one of the largest amounts of passes in the NFL behind the line of scrimmage this season. And the Eagles have been really good. They allowed only a 29% success rate on passes thrown behind the line of scrimmage. And so that was a big matchup to watch for. And it was what the Chiefs, I wouldn't say the Chiefs were great at it, but what the Chiefs like to do against something the Eagles were really good at. And the first play of the game, the Eagles got. They run like a fake screen. They send Xavier Worthy in orbit motion and just watch Cooper DeJean. He recognizes this. He's already communicating. He reads screen, and if this was a screen, he would blow it up, but it's not. Mahomes no-look passes it right there. You get the first down. And on that play, I'm like, all right, here we go. This is how it's going to be. Like, if Mahomes just guesses right every time, you can't stop it, right? And they did that to try to set up this very next play. They try to throw a screen pass, top of the screen, Cooper DeJean again. You would think maybe Cooper DeJean just gave up 11 yards because he bit on a fake screen. Maybe it slows him down. Not a chance. He knows what the Chiefs want to do. And so he just blows this play up. And so, I mean, he sees that bubble. Boom, we're there. Tackle in the flat, 1 yard gain. And it wasn't just, at the very beginning of the game. And so now they get down to their goal line. And I actually think this is the play before the drop 8 coverage I just showed. and they're going to run a screen pass again, but notice they run it away from Cooper DeJean. We're tired of messing with Cooper DeJean. Let's go after Quinyon Mitchell. That's also a bad decision because Quinyon Mitchell comes off the roof and lays a hit on the tight end. And then Jalen Carter even got in on it. Wasn't a very productive from a stat sheet standpoint game for Jalen Carter, but watch Jalen Carter on this play. By the way, Johnny, I had people point this out to me. Look how goofy their right tackle stance looks here. Look at his feet. That's like his toes are look at where his toes are pointed. That's so weird.
That is weird.
But anyways, this is a screen pass. And just watch Jalen Carter. He realizes it. Like he's not double teamed. Trey Smith just lets him go, and watch him retrace this. Boom. Now, sure, the running back comes back in. He doesn't have eyes on him. He's just looking at Mahomes, and he drifts out wide. But he blows up the timing on this thing by recognizing it's a screen. And this is a guy that's getting double teamed all game, and he gets a free run at Mahomes, and he realizes something is up and helps disrupt that play. I thought the Eagles did such a good job against all the smoke and mirrors of the screen game, and there was just nothing there at all.
Yeah, so I have no idea what I was trying to say earlier, by the way. So if it comes back to me, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to give you my second point straight after you, which is my second point was going to be Quinyon. And I was going to do Quinyon and Cooper DeJean in one, but you stole Cooper DeJean away from me because the second I saw screen defense, I was like, that's Cooper DeJean's music. Screen defense, that's his game. We had a comment earlier on from Mr. Humble saying, if Slayer's gone, does Cooper go outside? No. Ignore that stupid guy on Twitter called, like, I don't know his name, his first round mock or whatever. Danny Kelly, is it? Who said, like, Cooper DeJean sucks or whatever. I don't know if you've been following this drama, but he said, like, a Nickel's not even a starter. I'm like, shut up. Like, did these people hear themselves? He plays, like, every snap. Basically, Fangio's nickel role is incredibly complex, and Cooper DeJean has made it look the easiest thing in the world. I don't want to get into, like, I don't want to over-exaggerate or get into like stupid comments, but I can't recall two rookie cornerbacks in the first and second round playing this well, and not just playing this well, not just playing straight up man coverage. They're playing like an incredibly complex system that requires a lot of like things that can go wrong, and we've seen it go wrong. We've seen veterans struggle with this system and like make wrong decisions in terms of passing routes off and stuff, and it's like sort of mental how good they've both been. I said this in my article this week, like, Cooper DeJean, I think, is really good. I think really, really good. I think Quinyon is like, I don't want to say he's gone to like all pro elite status, but he's gone to the status already where teams don't try and throw at him. In this game, that they don't even look his way. Like, Mahomes isn't even interested. And my favorite one, I mean, we've got to show it. Number 3 on my film thread. It's not the fact that he runs with Xavier Worthy down the field with nobody around him step by step. I'm sure there are some cornerbacks that could run with a receiver if they're very fast. It's not the fact that he runs with him. There's 3 things about this play. Number 1, I think, is that he runs with him easily. His head is getting back to the football like 25 yards down the field. He's almost like, go on then, throw it. I'm here. How fast is the guy over 5 yards to be able to do that? That was the first thing that shocked me. The second thing that shocked me was that Xavier Worthy's in motion already. So he's got a head start. So you can't even get hands on him. If you're Andy Reid, this is like the GOAT play call. This is perfect. You've got your guy in motion. And the Eagles have doubled Travis Kelce again. The Eagles have got eyes in the middle of the field. This is it. He looks so easy. And then my final point, Shane, on this play and on Quinyon in general, is that there's a lot of talk at the moment in English football. And I think there is, I don't know if there is about, I think it's just live. It's probably like a social media phrase, the word aura. And it's become a bit of like a joke that certain players have like aura around them. I don't know if it's a thing in US sports, but it's become quite a big thing in English sports anyway. Almost like someone's got this like presence about them, I guess. Patrick Mahomes goes to throw this ball. There's no reason why he shouldn't throw it. He is one-on-one. He's streaking down the field. There is not a safety in sight, and he doesn't throw it. And that to me is almost like, Jesus Christ, that's next level. He's got that. He's already got that level of like, that's not worth the risk. I don't think there are many quarterbacks in the league that Patrick Mahomes would not launch that ball on. You've got everything that's like, thank you, GGN10. Shout out GGN10. Yeah, but there's probably comments or as all over social media. It's everywhere. It's like it's a stupid word, so I almost didn't want to use it. but I couldn't not use it because it was going in my brain as I'm watching his film. He's got that, I'm going to say presence because I'm old and don't want to get down with a social media kid. So let's say he's got that presence about him where QBs are already ignoring him. It's sort of mind-blowing, Shane. Rookie cornerbacks don't play well in general. I think rookie cornerbacks are incredibly hard to translate. I think rookie cornerbacks in the Fangio scheme are very hard to translate. I think rookie cornerbacks playing Super Bowls and basically like having zero fear. Like Cooper DeJean in this game, he's pressing Travis Kelce at the line of scrimmage. It's almost absurd how two players have changed the entire direction of the secondary. But I can't remember the time I'm so excited to watch two players grow. The fact we get to watch these for the next 3 years, at least, and hopefully longer, is going to be so much fun because I know rookie cornerbacks can hit the wall and they can have not as good of a second season because it happens in sports. Teams watch film on you. And about a month ago, it looked like Quinion had a flaw with running deep and Terry beat him a few times. And then it's just like, no, fix that. Don't worry about it. I was flipping my hips too quickly. That's all solved now. Now I'm running down on the wheel route with Worthy, who ran a 4.21 40, and Mahomes isn't even going to take a shot into clear one-on-one coverage. So, yeah, my second point was Quinion, and I was going to do Cooper, but you already did him.
All right. Well, let's get on to our third points. For me, I wanted to talk about Jalyx Hunt. And, you know, when you have an offseason where you sink $17 million into a priority free agent and he's then inactive in the Super Bowl because your safety turned edge rusher from an FCS school, you're comfortable playing him 20 plus snaps in the Super Bowl. That speaks volumes. And I thought Jalyx Hunt didn't just show up to the Super Bowl. I thought he had a really good game. And it mostly came at the expense of Joe Thuney, which, again, terrible decision by the Chiefs in how they handled their offensive line this year. But just show a couple plays. He's always rushing against Thuney in these clips, so coming off the left side of the screen here. But he bull rushes against Joe Thuney here. And look at the push he gets. And then he gets a partial sack. He should have got the whole sack there, if we're being honest. And then again, he's going to push Thuney here, and then he still gets involved in the play. I think they gave that whole sack to Sweat, but Hunt pushes the pocket there. By the way, this is how close he was to getting thrown out of the Super Bowl. Watch his celebration coming out of here.
I've seen that. I know. Can you imagine? Can you imagine
a rookie knocking an official out in the Super Bowl?
It would have been a 24-0 Shane. I'd take it. It would have been Philly legendary status instantly. Do you know when we were on a Super Bowl, our rookie edge knocked out a ref?
This is not how official positions work. This is definitely not the guy that threw the OPI on the first fourth down of the game. But in my head, I'm just going to say Jalyx Hunt was hunting this guy the whole game. But no, he gets involved in that play. And then again on this one, look at where we're at in the game now. This is a third corner. You are now asking Travis Kelce, your best receiving weapon, to chip block on a rookie third-round edge rusher that was considered a project. But they have to chip him, and he still pushes him back into the pocket. Ultimately, Mahomes escapes because of an egregious hold on Brandon Graham here. But I thought Jalyx Hunt was so good in this game. He had a 25% pressure rate, 5 of 20 pass rush reps. He applied pressure. He had 2 defensive stops. He ultimately ends up playing 23 snaps in the Super Bowl. And this is a guy that, I was excited about the draft pick because I am an athleticism guy. That's why I loved Nolan Smith. I just didn't think he would make any. I thought he would be a game day inactive this season because he's learning a new position and he's light. And I thought he would be good for the Fangio defense, more as a dropper. And occasionally you can pass rush a little bit. And I mean, he legitimately was just a plus level starter in his rookie season. So he's another guy that I can't wait to see grow because I think he's got the potential to turn into a really good player for this team.
Yeah, I'm now trying to desperately bring up my review of him because I remember being very up or down in my summary. And I'll paraphrase because I can't Google that quickly. But I said something like he's either going to be the greatest player early on, or it's just not going to work because he's such a good athlete. If it works, it's going to work very, very, very quickly because the talent is so obvious. I remember DMing people trying to get film off him because it was so hard to even watch his film. I literally said, I mean, this is just really quickly. I've said this a few times. I said it feels like a massive risk, blah, 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 but you can't help but be fascinated. I said, I've watched every bit of film of Jalyx Hunt I could possibly find on the internet, and I still don't have any idea what to make of the pick. I love it and hate it at the same time. And I put, he is one of the most fascinating athletes I've ever watched. He moves differently from every other player on the field. He's a ridiculously bizarre combination of length, speed, and quickness. And then I instantly said, like, I don't actually like the pick that much because I think in the third round, it's just a risk. But I did say, like, if he develops, I said, it's a pretty big if. If he develops into a good, he's going to be one of the best edge rushers in the league because you simply cannot teach his level of athleticism and length. And he played so well, Shane, for a third round pick. We will talk about Fangio a lot, but it's not just Fangio. The Eagles coaching staff, like, the coaches, their linebacker coach, their edge coach, their defensive line coach, they've done such a good job this year because the amount of development we've seen from certain players. And my biggest credit for this entire Eagles coaching staff, and I think this is how it helps when you have guys like Fangio and Sirianni, who are now quite powerful in the organization, I think, is that if Howie's made a pick they don't like, Bryce Huff, they don't force it. Just didn't work. Just move on. I know there's some optimism, maybe another offseason. Maybe he'll get it next year. Maybe he'll get a different role. I'm not giving up on him fully. But basically, it was just like, give up. Done with it. Didn't work. And I think a lot of teams would not follow their pride and play a third-round rookie project over the most expensive player on the defense or most expensive free agent signing in the Super Bowl. And I have huge credit for the Eagles for doing that. Right. We're going to be quite quick this week, Shane, because to be honest, we've said this before, it's a slightly weird game because the film was very similar, wasn't it? It was like I can only show so many plays of the same thing.
Yeah. Here, hold on. Before we move off of Jalyx Hunt.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm having flashbacks while you were talking, remembering us doing a film breakdown of him and somebody making the joke about how all of his film looks like his mom videoed it on her iPhone. And she was in the chat watching, and she replied to the breakdown and was like, I'm an Android girl. That was amazing. That, which is also really cool. Like, as you cover draft more, the small school prospects are so much fun because, like, the big name people, they've got everybody and their dog covering them. But you get a small school FCS kid in the end of the third round, and you end up having like their family's eyes on your stuff. That's always really cool. But that was a really cool experience. Shout out to Jalyx Hunt's mom for at least watching the one video that one time. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was cool. That was genuinely really cool. I feel like some of the things we've done on the podcast in such a short space of time is pretty mad. And that was one of the surreal moments. Right, I'm going to finish with one thing on the defense. It's basically nothing that I can really talk about this in huge amounts of detail because the Chiefs didn't run the ball, Shane. Chiefs literally...
Shout out Andy Reid.
Shout out Big Red. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had 32 attempts. The Chiefs' best rusher was Patrick Mahomes, 4 for 25. Kareem Hunt, 3 for 9. Samaje Perine, 1 for 8. Isaiah Pacheco, 3 for 7. By the way, Mahomes and Worthy's stats, the most fraudulent stat I've ever seen in the Super Bowl in my entire life. Anyway, NFL.com posted Worthy's highlights, and his first clip was at 24-0 down. I was like, oh my goodness, come on. You can't show
literally had one catch for 1 yard in the first half.
At 24-0. Like, you can't put a highlight. I saw PFT or something. That was one of the greatest Super Bowl performances from a receiver ever. And I was like, oh my God, people are mad. Like, watch the game. Don't just look at the numbers. Like, it wasn't. Anyway, I digress. We didn't really get to see the Eagles run the Shane because they just didn't do it. But I had to show one rep. I had to show this one rep. And loads of you have seen it online before. It's clip 5 of my film thread. If you want to judge a team by their character and their physicality, judge a team by how physical they are at the point of attack in the gap run game. And you'll find a hell of a lot out about your team. Watch Nolan Smith take on a giant guard here. That is absurd. And Moro Jomo then also wrecks, I think it's the left guard, wrecks him. We knew he was a problem going into it. And then there's a few others that join in, including Oren Burks for good measure. Like, football, we all get caught up. There's a great clip today from, I can't remember who it was. It was NFL Analysis Online saying that sometimes coverage of football's gone too like technical, and some people can get too down the tumbleweeds of like this schematic thing and this schematic thing. And hopefully we try and make it basic, because I do think at the end of the day, anyone that's played any professional sport in their life, I've not played American football, being from this country. I've played flag football for a while, but anyone who plays any level of sport knows that physicality is a huge, huge factor of sport. If you turned up with a bunch of players and the other team are more physical, more fast, bigger than you, in the words of Chip Kelly, big people beat up little people, you normally struggle. And like watching Nolan Smith hit that guard was like, this team wants it. They are so physically tough. I think Jalen Carter is physically ridiculous. Nolan Smith is ridiculous. Zach Bourne is absurd. Like their run defense was just so basically dominant. The Chiefs gave up. I don't think the Chiefs might have stopped running anyway, but they made the Chiefs so one-dimensional. And although there's not a lot of clips to show, there's not a lot of film to show because the Chiefs didn't do it. You can't take away the fact that the Eagles' run defense was amazing in this game. The Chiefs ran for 49 yards. That includes the QB, and that was a huge reason why the Eagles won this game.
Yeah, the Chiefs only called 7 run plays, and they had a 43% rushing success rate. Johnny, the Eagles called, they called 32 running back runs and had a 12% success rate. And the Eagles just kept running the ball. The Chiefs had no interest in running the football, and I thought it cost them dearly in this game.
It's really, really mental. It is crazy. It is crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's flip over to the offensive side of the ball. And again, if you want more content, we have already posted in the Patreon a full offense rewatch. So you can go. We just watched the entire game, the Eagles offense. We're going to do that for the defense and have that out later this week. But a few smaller things that we wanted to pick up. I will start us off here. And I just want to talk about the Eagles attacking vertically, because the verticality of the passing game was something that they kind of let go as the year went on. And I was glad to see him get it back in the playoffs. And it started at the beginning of the game. You get to the first drive, you get a 4th and 2. And I love the mentality to go for it on 4th and 2 at midfield in the Super Bowl on your opening drive. And I also love the mentality to say, hey, you know what? If you're going to give us single high, you're going to give us press coverage because you're worried about the run. And the Chiefs were way too worried about the run in this game. We're going to throw the ball up to A.J. Brown on 4th and 2. And you know what? We think he's going to catch it. And it's a confident throw. It's a perfect throw. It was a stupid penalty call.
This penalty don't be so much live. So I've got PTSD of this penalty. It just really annoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. But I loved that they took that shot. And I do think it helps set the tone, even though it comes back from penalty with a penalty flag. It's like at that moment, it's like if you're willing, as long as the Eagles are willing to take those shots into those looks, this offense is really hard to stop. And then you get, later in the game, later in the quarter, you get a crazy pressure coming. And you throw up a go ball one-on-one to Jahan Dotson, a guy that's been largely invisible this season. And it's a beautiful throw. I wish Dotson would have been able to get into the end zone, but he gets down to the 1-yard line. And shout out to Saquon for his blitz pickup on this one. You see him coming across the formation and big impact. And the ball is on the money. And Jalen Hurts is so good throwing the ball downfield. And so then you start to, okay, what if we don't let the receiver get behind us? What if we don't let the receiver stack us and get a step on us where Hurts can drop it in the bucket? Then you get throws like this. Like, look at where Hurts is starting to throw this football. You think he's playing with confidence right now, throwing this ball against this look right now? And he puts this perfectly on the back shoulder. And A.J. Brown just turns and makes the catch. You cannot stop that. That's unstoppable. And Hurts was throwing with so much confidence in this game. And then you get, of course, to the one where we call game and you get Devontae Smith on the post route with no safety help. And you play action, you pull the guard to sell the play action, ball's over the top. A.J. Brown's holding his hands up while the ball's still 20 yards from the end zone. Just such a good performance from the Eagles. Attacking vertically, like if a team is going... I'm going to get into this with another point, so I won't get into it too much here. But if a team is going to sell out this much to stop the run, there's no quarterback I would rather have launching those deep balls than Jalen Hurts, because I think he's the best in the league at just throwing those go balls. And it showed up in this game, and it paid off. He throws the one interception on a deep ball where he's hit while he's throwing. But other than that, going deep was perfect in this game. I think he was 4 or 5. He throws the touchdown. Awesome performance getting vertical, and it was very much needed to try to loosen things up underneath, which never really happened. That's fine. If the Chiefs are going to give you that, you take it all day.
Yeah, quick comment from Krabby Oldman saying, do you think the first penalties, by the way, were like the refs called them to balance it out? We disagreed a little on the Patreon, didn't we, about whether the one on God it was? But yeah, that was my opinion of it as well. Right, I'm going to do my first point, Shane, and it's a point that I want to get off my chest, and it's a point that I should have probably like planned for, but I didn't plan for it because I'm an idiot. I don't write notes, so it's just gut feel. I want to talk about Jalen Hurts, and you've already showed film on Jalen Hurts. We've done an offensive rewatch. You've literally just posted some of the clips I was going to post there, so I'm not even going to bother. I just feel like we all need to give Jalen Hurts our flowers this week. And I listened to you on Bird the Roundtable, and I could not agree more. I'm done with people who stick to their own rankings and refuse. There are two things I hate. There are people that refuse to accept change, and then there are people that ignore evidence when it stares them in the face. And also, those people often have a way they want to see a position played, and they blindly stick to it. Like, you can go down the numbers if you want. First in completion percentage, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, first in, what is it, completion percentage over expectation or whatever. You know, the 85 throwing touchdowns his career, 39 picks. You can go through it all. 9 turnover, the 1 turnover wherever you throw, 9 big plays. I don't really care the numbers you use. I also don't like ranking plays in general because I think it's a little bit nonsensical and, I mean, ranking people in different schemes. I think Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar are the 3 most talented quarterbacks in the league. But I don't know if this is radical to say this, Shane, and I'm probably going to sound like a mug and someone will quote tweet me. I wouldn't trade Jalen Hurts for anyone. Like, I genuinely wouldn't. In terms of, like, as a culture, in terms of leader of your franchise, sometimes players and franchises and cities mix and they mesh well as a combination. I think Hurts is, like, so perfect for a Philly QB. Everyone is so ramped up in Philadelphia. The media, even Sirianni is, and Hurts is just so chill. Like, I'm watching him on Jimmy Fallon last night with Saquon Barkley, and the offensive line come out like chugging beers, and Jalen doesn't even drink it. It's like, he's 26-year-old and he's going on like 40. Like, he's just the I mean, I don't know, Shane, I'm 30. I know you're slightly older as well. We're 26. I wasn't as mature as Jalen Hurts was. He's 26 years old. He's got the highest, as Anthony just said, hit EPA per play like ever in the Super Bowl this year, like the best performance of all time. Yes, the Eagles are talented. Right? AJ Brown is very good. Devontae Smith is very good. There is a lot of good quarterbacks who have had talented players around them. Like, I'm not holding it against him. It's nonsensical. And the way people ignore what he's been able to achieve, the guy was benched at Alabama. I probably was as angry as I've ever been as a sports fan. And I'm not kidding. When the Eagles picked Jalen Hurts in the second round, I think if I was doing this podcast, Shane, I'd have lost my mind. Like, fully lost my mind. I was all in on Wentz. I hated Jalen Hurts' film. I was massively into pocket quarterbacks. I didn't think anything of it. I thought he was basically like a, what do you call it? Basically going to be like a backup who you run some like read option with every so often. I don't think people realize how different Jalen Hurts' college film is to what he's doing now. And I keep reading people like, it's a gimmicky offense and you're Stephen Reeves of the world, like the RPO world. We watched every single Chiefs rep versus the Bills. They literally ran RPOs on like every single passing play. RPOs do not make you a bad quarterback. Like, I'm sick of the Jaden Daniels loving when the two played each other. And I love Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels could be awesome. Like, you haven't done anything. CJ Stroud had a phenomenal year and then a not very good year. Jalen Hurts has been so consistently like at the same level now for about 3 years. And I just think so many people ignore what he's done in the playoffs. And yeah, quite frankly, I find it annoying because we have to end up defending him. And if you read anything I wrote for the first 2 years of Hurts' career, I was a Hurts hater. Read my Billing Green articles. I got crap all the time. I was on board with throwing him and trading him after a year or two and going and get a big quarterback. I didn't want Russell Wilson because I wasn't a huge fan of his at that point, but I was all on board with going and get a big quarterback. I was all on board with trading up and going to get a top 5 free pick if they could when those rumors came out. Like, I don't think it's spoken about enough, but it's depressing that there's so much analysis. And actually, do you know what? Screw it. Idea for a Patreon show in the summer. Let's go back and watch Jalen Hurts' college film. Seriously, let's go back and watch his first 4 starts in the NFL, and I will show you guys how much progression he has made as a quarterback. And it's such a shame that rather than like analysts who are paid, who work for big publications, you have such an audience who could educate people on showing how much this guy has worked on his craft, because he is a different player. Rather than highlighting the changes he's made, rather than highlighting the fact that he couldn't even basically take a drop back in college and actually like complete a ball on time. Like he was just a totally different player. Now he's making like anticipation throws. Like his accuracy is so much better than it was in college. His decision making is better than it was in college. He's even trying to get to like backside reads for Kellen Moore's stupid 2x2 system, 2x2 concepts. Like the progression he's made just isn't spoken about, and it's really, really depressing. This was not a first round pick. This wasn't a CJ Stroud second overall. This wasn't a Jaden Daniels second overall. This was a guy that shouldn't have gone in the second round. He was a third, fourth round talent that most people basically had him down as. His mechanics, his general quarterback play was a bit all over the place, and he's got so much better. He's the polar opposite of Carson Wentz. Wentz did not want to work on his craft. He relied on his ability. He thought he had a God-given right to be there, and he didn't. And I do find it frustrating, and I shouldn't. And I wanted to get it off my system, and I won't moan about it all the time, because otherwise we'll just become like idiots shouting about people who rank Hurts a certain way. But stop making like dumb comments to rile up fan bases and then moaning about fan bases. Why don't you actually do a good job? Because some of these people know the sports, Shane. They're not dumb idiots. They know the game very well. They could do some fantastic work analyzing how Jalen Hurts has improved. And instead, they wait for him to miss one bad throw to A.J. Brown on the left sideline. And that's the one tweet they put out there. And it's not the other things he does. It's not the fact that he's like a model professional in every way. It's not the fact that he just seems like an incredibly decent guy as well. They just seem to want to pick holes in him. And I've been so consistent in my Hurts analysis. Even about 2 months ago when the BGN comments were getting spicy with me, and they were saying, you're defending Hurts too much, you're defending Hurts too much. And I was saying, I don't think the design is good. I don't think Hurts is playing that well, but I will always get back to the same answer. Can you win a Super Bowl with him? Yes. Therefore, he is a franchise quarterback. I have seen it. I watched him with my eyes. He has now outplayed Mahomes in 2 separate Super Bowls. Guys like Dak Prescott, who I love watching on film for some of the stuff Dak does, they can't even get close to facing Mahomes in a Super Bowl. And I know it's a team sport, but we've seen some of these quarterbacks in big games. Like if Jalen Hurts played the game Justin Herbert played, Shane, in the playoffs this year, I don't even want to know what the comments would be like online about Jalen Hurts. And I almost don't want to pull the race card, but I think sometimes the fact that he is a black athlete is viewed differently as well by certain people. I think some of the comments coming out of the draft, you cannot ignore. He would not have received those same comments. And I just wish as a national consensus, we could celebrate him rather than try and knock him down. I'm so happy for the guy, like genuinely as happy as I've been for an athlete in a while, because I don't know how much of it he reads. I doubt he reads a lot of it, but I also doubt he's thick. And I know that every human being reads criticism of them online unless they are mental. And when he had that good game a month ago, what did he come out and say to the media? Like, that's what you've all been waiting for or whatever. So we know he reads stuff. These guys are human beings. And yeah, I am so happy for him. So no film this time, just a little bit of a rant that I feel like he finally should get some respect in a, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, very well said. And then to have the audacity to start calling fans out on Twitter afterwards, like, I don't know. It's just, it's absurd. And you're right. Some of those guys, not all of them, because I'm not convinced that one of them could point out any of the things he writes on film. Maybe. But some of them are very intelligent and know the game really well and are involved in coaching the game. And it's sad that that's what it is. Like we were chatting in the Discord this morning. I don't know if you saw it all because it kind of blew up we had a lot of people talking in there, but I was saying that this isn't a QB ranking show. We'll do that later now that Johnny said he hates ranking players. But I mean, clearly to me, the top 4, you have a top 4 of Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. And anywhere from 5 to 10 or 12 that you want to put Hurts, I think that makes sense. You can defend that. That's reasonable. Like if you want to tell me he's 5, I see how you get there. If you want to tell me he is 11, I see how you get there because there's some really good names and things like that. At the end of the day, if you're trying to tell me that he is top 4, I don't think that's reasonable. Maybe you can make the argument against Burrow. I probably wouldn't, but definitely top 3. And if you're trying to tell me he's not inside the top 12, you're also just can't make that argument rationally. So I won't go into it a ton because I ranted about it on Birds of the Roundtable last night. So go listen to that. If you don't want to listen to the whole show, it's the promo clip on Twitter, like a 2-minute thing of me going into it. But I won't reiterate everything, but I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said.
Final thing, Shane. Let's look around some quarterbacks as well. I'm down. We can definitely do a little bit more NFL content in the offseason. I would like to actually go and watch a bit of film of some of the top guys as well, more than we get the time to do. I'll just say final thing about an analysis in general. These are human beings. I've done a bit on the moral high horse because we'll crucify them a lot as well on here. That is our job. Like, we're meant to criticize as well. But like, let's focus on positives of players and not just focus on things they can't do. Good coaches, and I've said this for ages, Hurts has an incredibly useful skill set. I don't care if he can't do exactly what Dak Prescott can do on this specific play. Don't call that play then. Like, your job as a coach, your job as a general manager is to find the strengths and essentially make sure that you can hide their flaws and show off their strengths. And players with very few strengths and loads of weaknesses will obviously get found out. That's fine. But why don't we analyze players by talking about what they do well more, rather than just talking about things they could have done better? And that's just a general media point.
I have a thing that I do where, like, sometimes I'll listen to people that talk about a lot of things that I don't understand or keep up with very well, politics, things like that. But when you touch on something that I know a lot about, you better be right, because if you're not, that's my litmus test. I dismiss what you say about everything else too. I am telling you, it is not reasonable in any fashion to have Hurts ranked outside of your top 12. And so if you are listening to a podcast, you're reading people that have him outside of that top 12, just stop following him, because they either don't know what they're talking about, or they do know what they're talking about and they're not being honest and they're not worth listening to. So use Hurts as your litmus test for evaluating other NFL media, because I'm telling you, there's no possible way you can have him below 12 and make a rational argument for it.
Yep. And even if you do, don't be a dick about it. Don't just point out things he doesn't do. Show me his progress. Show me how he's got better. Show me the things he does well. It's such a shame. He seems like the most down-to-earth guy, Hurts. Like, there's nothing flashy. And some of the comments about him and his inability to do certain things are depressing. Anyway.
That clip of him on Fallon with the offensive line and their overalls and stuff, like, the look on his face is how I feel when I take my kids out in public and they're just being ridiculous sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why I can't take you guys anywhere. I just thought it was hilarious. He's such an old soul and I love him so much. So, Okay, let's keep rolling. Jonny did his non-film point. Now for my second point, I'm going to go through the 5 worst plays from Jalen Hurts and why he's a terrible quarterback. No, I'm just kidding. I want to talk about, this is another small thing. And again, I told you I was going small on stuff like this. I'm going to have a full pass game review out later this week for the Patreon and stuff. But one of the things I loved that the offense did in this game was how they varied their pre-snap cadence. We've seen all year, Mekhi Becton taps the leg of Cam Jurgens. We snapped the ball. Frankie Louvu timed this up in the NFC Championship game. I thought how they handled that sometimes in this game was great. And so watch at the very beginning of this. You're going to see Mekhi Becton tap Cam Jurgens, which is the signal for snap the ball. But we don't snap the ball and watch the defense respond. We're creeping up. Now they change things at the last second, send Devontae Smith in motion. Now we snap it. You catch them spinning their safeties, changing that coverage. Easy completion. It's not the only time that they tapped more than once, but it was just one I wanted to point out. And then they also did some where they just didn't tap. They went off of Hurts' leg. And you can see this one. Cam Jurgens is going to look between his legs at Hurts, and they go right off of Hurts' leg. And watch how slow everybody on the defensive line except Chris Jones is getting off of the ball here. He still gets off fast. He's elite. Watch everybody else. See how slow they are off of the ball? Like, the ball's already in Hurts' hands. And just look at Chris Jones compared to everybody else. It slows down the pass rush. The defense is maybe scrambling. You got a wide open throw to the flat to Jahan Dotson. They did this later on the touchdown to A.J. Brown, and NFL Pro kind of cuts things off, but you can see they're still walking up to the line in this freeze frame, right? Like Devontae Smith is right here. He's not set up. Nobody's set up, but watch how quickly they snap this ball after they get set up. They walk right up and boom, we snap. And we get an easy completion to A.J. Brown for a touchdown. And so it's not the biggest point, but I did love that there was a clear issue in the NFC Championship game with defensive players, particularly Frankie Louvu, timing up your cadence and your snap counts. And I thought they made a concerted effort to do that, A, to catch the pass rush off guard, and B, to try to riddle out some of what the defense was trying to do and make adjustments. And so I wanted to shout that out because I thought that was a cool thing that probably slipped under the radar for a lot of people watching the game.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree. I've got two more before we finish up. And I don't want to end on a negative because that'd be depressing. So I'll talk a little bit about a negative from this game. And not really a negative, actually. I don't care about the Eagles run game in this game because the Eagles won and it was important. We went into a lot more detail on the Patreon rewatch because we watched every single running play. So if you want to see all 25 Saquon Barkley carries from 3 angles and hear us talk about them all, you can. That's not really selling it, is it? I should say something else. You can also see the good stuff. But I guess for those of you that haven't listened, that haven't heard me, I wanted to talk about what the Chiefs did well. And I know it's not a Chiefs podcast, but I think it's sort of useful to know why things didn't work. And that's a great comment from Thank Bird, by the way. I did see that come in. I wanted to just show there was one clip basically, and I'll use that to like talk about the Chiefs run D in general. And it was play 7 of my film thread that I've got. I actually bullet pointed this. It's not even me taking notes, but I bullet pointed this before the podcast for the BGN article. So if anyone's wondering, like, what schematically did the Chiefs do to stop the run, you can see a great example of it on this exact play. So first of all, their entire defensive plan was to stop the run. They were hyper-focused on stopping the run. They always had men around the line of scrimmage. And when they played 2 high safeties, they were flying downhill quickly. Look how quickly that weak side safety here is. If Hurts does keep that, he's getting 2 yards maximum before the safety hits him. You can tell that they scouted the hell out of this Eagles run game. The other problem was the Eagles' interior offensive line did not play well. And again, if you watch the Patreon review, you'll see us point out quite a few bad reps from Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, and I'm not convinced those two were healthy. The Eagles' zone running game just didn't work because the whole idea of the zone running game is to get to the second level. So double team the defensive line and then get to the second level. They just couldn't do it because the Chiefs' second level was so quick downhill. I thought the Chiefs tackled exceptionally well. I thought Nick Bolton was exceptionally good against the run game. And I think it's fair to point out Saquon wasn't magical. He wasn't Saquon at his very best. He couldn't really create a huge amount in this game. And sometimes he creates something out of nothing. So I'm going to argue that I am not worried. Who the hell cares? It's a Super Bowl. But I thought we'd be pointing out for those of you that care about the X's and O's and wonder like what happened with the run game, because it is pretty remarkable. And I said this in the Patreon thing as well. If we had lost this game, there would be stories written about the fact Saquon Barkley went for 25 carries for 57 yards. It's mad how bad that is considering how good this rushing offense is. I think it was one of those games. The Chiefs tried to set out to stop the run and they did. And luckily, the Eagles have a quarterback in the passing game that could still win. So I thought I'd just throw a point out there about the run game in general.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. We did kind of talk about, too, especially with Dickerson, looked really banged up at times on the All-22. So I do think, though, that their reliance on the run kept that pass opened up. So, okay, my last point, not a film point, but I'm not going to show any film clips here, but let's talk about Kellen Moore. Obviously, Kellen Moore has now been announced as the head coach for the Saints, and I think there's been a lot of hand-wringing about that, it'll be Hurts's 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years, and there's no continuity, and the last time he had continuity, they went to a Super Bowl, and now he's got to learn a whole new system, and I don't think this is going to be a very hard-felt loss for the Eagles. Throughout the season, and you guys know if you watch the show, I questioned at times if he was the right coordinator for Jalen Hurts as the season unfolded. And I mean, it kind of became a meme of the show, but me talking about backside timing routes, and that's just not Hurts's game. And there's quarterbacks that can do that, and it is the Dak Prescotts and the Justin Herberts that he's coached before. And it's not Jalen Hurts. That's not his game, and that's fine. Like, we can talk about the weaknesses he has as a quarterback too, and as a coach, you want to mitigate those and play to the strengths. And I didn't think Moore did that a lot of the season. He did get better with it. He did some creative stuff in the NFC Championship game, but I don't think the Super Bowl game plan was that special. Like, it wasn't bad. I don't think it was a bad game plan. It just wasn't special. It was more of a Jimmy's and Joe's performance than it was an X's and O's performance. And so as you look to the Eagles going into the offseason, first of all, I expect an internal promotion. I think Kevin Petulu will be the new OC, and that's fine. People point to the Brian Johnson promotion to disaster, and it turned into one. But let's not forget, Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate at Thanksgiving last year, and it all fell apart spectacularly. But why did it fall apart? Well, because a fatal flaw in the offense was found. They could not deal with max pressure, and they had no idea what to do. Brian Johnson had been in the NFL for 2 years, only in Philadelphia when he got the bump to play caller. Petulu's been in the NFL since 2007 at various places. Not to mention, Kellen Moore laid the blueprint for solving the blitz. I doubt that reappears as this massive Achilles heel for the offense. And so I kind of expect an internal promotion, which means it's not going to be a new scheme. And at the end of the day, as long as you have this offensive line, which Mekhi Becton is probably going to leave, and that's fine. As long as you have this running back and this run game, and Stoutland coordinates all of that, and I trust him with that. And as long as Jalen Hurts has his deep accuracy and you have A.J. Brown, you should be fine. Like, the Eagles' offense is basic. It was basic all season, and it can be basic. That doesn't mean a quarterback can't do more, but why? Well, it's really simple. You either dramatically overplay the run like the Chiefs did, and we will light you up outside the numbers with the best deep ball thrower in the league and a top 2 or 3 receiver, or you take care of that, and we're just going to run the ball on you. And so when that's the configuration, when that's the ecosystem that you're stepping into, I just think it'll be fine. Like, the big thing for an offensive coordinator is going to be the ability to problem solve when another one of those flaws pop up. And again, I think a guy like Petulu has a lot more experience than Brian Johnson did, and sequencing plays well. And that's always the unknown. How are they going to do as a first-time guy calling the plays? There's also reports that, the Saints want him to be their OC too. And maybe he does that, but if it's me, and I don't know the interpersonal things, I don't know the relationship between him and Moore versus him and Sirianni or whatever. But if you're an NFL coach, Johnny, surely you aspire to be a head coach one day. What do you think gives you the better opportunity to be a head coach? Calling plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, or stepping into the mess that is the New Orleans Saints, and not even being the play caller at offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So if the Eagles want Petulu, he's going to be there, unless he is blood brothers with Kellen Moore. And I just don't think that's the case, because he's been in Philly for a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting offseason to see who they hire, but the boring one will probably be just keep him around. As you mentioned, I wasn't that impressed with the game plan, passing-wise, this game. I didn't think the design was brilliant. I thought the design was far better in the NFC conference game. But there we go. Let's end, Shane, with a final point, especially as we've got recorded straight after this as well. So I say a quick one. It's still over an hour. Let's end with Devontae Smith's touchdown, because why the hell would you not want to end a Super Bowl passing game review or offensive review with the Devontae Smith touchdown? It's film clip 12 if you need it on my film thread. There's so many cool things about this play. Like, first of all, I mentioned this in the Patreon show, but the run action, so the pulling guard, watch Becton pull, and watch the Chiefs linebackers. If you want to know how hyper-focused they were on the run, look at this. But what's really cool about this play, right, Shane, if you just pause it here, and I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts processing here. Right, the Eagles are running a flood concept, or sail, three-level stretch, whatever you want to call it. So Saquon Barkley's going to release into the flat. Dallas Scott's going to run like a corner, like flood route, and Devontae Smith's going to run a post. Normally, as a sail, you'd run like a go, but you can run any vertical route. Now, pre-snap, for all to talk about Hurts processing, reading a defense, pre-snap, this is single high. if this is single high, you do not throw the post because you never throw a post into single high coverage. So if you look at the safety, it looks like pretty clear single high. The other safety is almost like a linebacker on this. He's lined up to the right of the trio there. Now watch Jalen Hurts process this, especially as it's play action. There's things happening in front of him. He spots this safety running deep and he recognizes split safety straight away. Now, all of a sudden, if it's split safety like cover 4 style, what's it going to happen? That safety is now going to break on to the flood route, which is exactly what he does. But this is post-snap processing because he's still, like, you only really recognize it now. Now, it's easy when we pause it, Shane, with a clicker and go, look, he's clearly going to do this. But live, you're talking split second. This is a very late safety rotation. Sees it. He waits for the safety. He knows where he's going. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful throw. That is post-snap processing. That is elite down the field accuracy. Balls out on time, hit your back foot. What a beautiful, beautiful play. And I think we watched this play about 15 times on the Patreon review, and I think I've watched it about 50 already. But yeah, it's just awesome. Like, this is not the easiest safety rotation in the world to see. It's quite late, and back foot, bang. Like, yeah, it's a really, 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 really cool play. The catch is awesome. Yeah, great shout from Connor in the chat. Yeah, Devontae Smith is unbelievable as well. Like, the Eagles have got 2 superstars at receiver. I don't care who the offensive coordinator is. I could be the coordinator next year, Shane. I'd go, right, Stoutland, you have the entire run game. I'm just going to figure out 15 plays I can run off of your run game, and then I'm going to throw deep to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith every so often. Done. You do not need a creative genius. I want competence. Whoever they think is going to be the most competent in the room, like, I can help you figure out the play against the blitz. I can provide Jalen Hurts with multiple options against pressure, and I'm not going to get in the team's way because the team is talented enough to be very, very, very good. So there you go. Well, thanks, Bird Gang. Next time you get a conversation with someone about reading a defense, show them that post-snap processing there. Yeah, Saquon's hand up. The team know he's good. The team know they're good. They know it. They know it.
Same with AJ Brown. AJ Brown's hands are up, signaling touchdown already.
It's insane. Like, that is, people talk about, I don't want to go back to the Hurts discussion again, but those guys trust the hell out of their QB. Try telling those guys that he's not a top QB and that things he can't do. They would laugh you out the building and they play with him. That's me done. What a season. What a season of podcasts.
What a season.
He says while he goes to take a 10-minute break and then goes back and records an entire separate show.
Yeah, it'll be great. So there you have it, guys. That is our final film review on the Shane page for the 2024 season. The show is not going anywhere. We're going to be doing content through the off season. It might not be weekly because we'll be doing Patreon shows as well, but we'll keep you guys informed with shows and things that we're doing. Please consider coming and joining the Patreon. Like I said, we've watched every snap of the offense. We're about to go watch every snap of the defense in a live recording for Patreon. I'm going to do a film breakdown of every drop back in this game for the Patreon. That's all this week. Next week, we're going to do a Patreon mailbag, and there'll be some other things. We'll be doing shows here. So you guys can keep up with us on social media, on the podcast feed, and the Patreon, any of that. We very much appreciate you guys and your support, whether you are a Patreon member, whether you're just watching the YouTube videos or following us on Twitter, listening to the podcast feed, whatever it is, we truly appreciate it. 2024 was a magical season. Let's roll into an equally awesome off season and run this thing back in 2025. So that's going to do it. Thank you guys for joining in for the live show. We will catch you guys next time.